This is not the story of a man who fell asleep under a tree. It is the story of a man who lived an entire life and woke to find that no time had passed at all. Tonight, I'll tell you a story from Japan. It was a warm afternoon in late summer, the kind of warmth that makes your eyes feel heavy. A man named Akinosuke sat in his garden, under a great cedar tree. He lived in Yamato, a quiet part of the old country. Two friends had come to see him that day. They sat together in the shade. They had been drinking a little rice wine, talking softly about nothing in particular. The cicadas were loud in the branches above them. The air did not move. Slowly the heat settled over Akinosuke. His head grew heavy. He told his friends he felt very sleepy. He leaned back against the trunk of the cedar, and he closed his eyes, just for a moment. He woke to the sound of footsteps, many footsteps, moving together in order. When he opened his eyes, a great procession was coming up the road toward his house. Men in fine robes, banners. A long, slow line of them, stretching back further than he could see. At the front walked a single messenger. The messenger came to Akinosuke, and he knelt, and he bowed very low. He said that the Lord of Tokoyo had sent for him. Tokoyo, the everlasting land. A place Akinosuke had never heard of in all his life. The messenger said the Lord was waiting. A carriage was ready. Akinosuke did not know why he rose to his feet, but he did, and he followed. They placed him inside a palanquin, a small carriage carried by hand. The curtains were blue silk, and they closed around him so that he could not see out. He felt only the gentle swaying. He heard only the feet of the men who carried him, soft and steady on the road. After a long while the carriage stopped. The curtains opened, and Akinosuke saw a gate taller than any he had ever known. Great red pillars, a roof that seemed to hold up a piece of the sky. Servants stood waiting in two long lines, and they bowed as he passed between them. He walked through halls that smelled of cedar and incense, where everything was still, and everything was perfect. At the end of the halls, a king was waiting for him, the Lord of Tokoyo himself. He sat very still, in dark robes, and his face was calm and his eyes were kind. He welcomed Akinosuke the way you might welcome a son who has come home. He said he had been waiting a long time. He said he had chosen Akinosuke for something important. The king had a daughter. It was time for her to be married. And of all the men in the world, he had chosen Akinosuke to be her husband. Akinosuke did not understand why him. He only knew that he could not refuse. And somewhere, quietly deep inside, he found that he did not want to. That same day, they were married. The princess came to him dressed in white. She did not say very much. She did not seem to need to. When she lifted her eyes and looked at him, Akinosuke felt that she already knew him. that she had always known him. The great hall was full of soft lamplight and the low sound of strings. People came and bowed and wished them well, but Akinosuke saw only her face. They sat together as the lamps burned down to small flames, and he thought to himself quietly, "This is a face I will know for the rest of my life." He did not yet understand how true that would be. Not long after, the king called Akinosuke to him once more. There was an island, he said, far to the southwest, an island named Raishu. Its people needed someone to govern them, to care for them, and the king asked Akinosuke to go. So they made ready, and they sailed. The princess went with him, standing at his side. Akinosuke watched the water change as they crossed it, from green to gray to a deep and endless blue. And at last the island rose out of the sea in front of them. Low green hills, pale roads, houses with gray roofs waiting in the morning light. His new home. Akinosuke ruled the island of Raishu for 23 years. He was a fair governor and a gentle one. He listened more than he spoke. Slowly the people came to trust him, and then to love him. While he ruled, there was no famine on the island. There was no war. The harvests were good, and the harbors were full, and the children grew up without fear. The years passed the way years do, slowly and then all at once. He and the princess had 7 children of their own, 5 sons, 2 daughters. The halls he had once walked through alone were never quiet now. It was a good life, a full one. He had almost forgotten he had ever lived another. In the 24th year, the princess fell ill. It came quietly, the way the worst things often do. At first it was nothing, a tiredness, a paleness. Then it was something. Akinosuke sat by her bed day after day. He held her hand and he spoke to her softly about small and ordinary things. The garden, the children. A certain morning long ago, when they had first crossed the sea. But she grew thinner. Her breath grew slower and further apart. And one evening, with the lamps turned low, between one breath and the next, she was gone. She was 34 years old. They buried her on a hill above the sea. Akinosuke raised a stone over the place and set it deep into the earth so that it would not move. For many days after, he did not speak to anyone. He would climb the hill alone in the early light. He would sit down beside the stone, and he would look out at the water, the same water they had crossed together all those years ago, when everything was still ahead of them. He was the governor of a whole island, and he had never in his life felt so small. Then one day a message came from the Lord of Tokoyo. It was a gentle message. It said that Akinosuke's time on the island had come to its end, that he had done what he was sent to do, and that now he could come home. They placed him once more inside the palanquin. The blue silk curtains closed around him. He felt the old, gentle swaying and the soft feet of the men who carried him. He was very tired. He closed his eyes. And the carriage bore him away from the island, away from the hill above the sea, into the dark. Akinosuke opened his eyes. He was sitting in his own garden, under the great cedar tree. The cicadas were loud again in the branches above him. His two friends were still there beside him, sitting exactly as they had been. The cups of wine were not yet empty. The shadows on the ground had barely moved at all. He had been asleep for only a few minutes, but he had crossed the sea. He had married and buried a wife. He had raised 7 children. He had grown old and gray on an island that no one here had ever heard of. And here was the afternoon, exactly where he had left it. His friends were smiling at him. They had a strange thing to tell him. While he had been sleeping, they said, a small yellow butterfly had come. It had floated down and hovered around his face for a while. Then it had settled on the ground right beside him, near the roots of the cedar. And then a large ant had come out of a hole in the earth. The ant had taken hold of the butterfly and pulled it down into the hole under the ground. And just before Akinosuke woke, the butterfly had come back. It had risen up out of the hole, hovered once more above his face, and then it was gone. Something in Akinosuke went very still. He asked his friends to help him dig. Right there, beneath the cedar tree, in the place where the butterfly had gone down into the earth. They were puzzled, but they helped him. They cleared away the soft soil layer by layer. And there, under the roots of the tree, they found a kingdom. A great colony of ants opened all at once to the afternoon light. Tiny halls, tiny passages and roads, thousands upon thousands of small bodies all moving together in order. A whole world that had been there all along, beneath the very place where he had laid down his head. In the center of it all there was a shape. A small mound of clay, raised up and hollowed out, built almost like a palace, with a single chamber at its heart. And there, the ants had gathered close together, the way a court gathers around its king. Akinosuke knew that hall. He had walked through it. Then he looked to the southwest of the nest, and set a little apart from the rest. There was another place. A small island of raised earth, lifted above the ground around it. He looked at it for a long time without speaking. Raishu, he thought, the island that I ruled. On that small island of earth there was a stone. A single tiny pebble, worn smooth and round, standing upright in the soil. The way a gravestone stands above a grave. Akinosuke knelt down close to the ground. Very carefully, with the tips of his fingers, he lifted the little stone away. And underneath it, in the cool, dark earth, he found the body of a single ant. A small one, quite still. He looked at it for a long time. He looked at it the way you look at a face that you have loved and lost. He did not say anything. There was nothing left that needed to be said. This story was written down by Lafcadio Hearn, who gathered old Japanese tales more than 100 years ago. People have always wondered about dreams, about where we go in the dark behind our closed eyes. Akinosuke lived a whole life in the time it takes a butterfly to cross a garden. A marriage, 7 children, a grave on a hill above the sea. All of it inside a single afternoon. Tokoyo, the everlasting land, was a nest of ants beneath a tree. And still every year of it was real to him, every face, every loss. I keep thinking about that little stone, how carefully he lifted it. A whole life, a whole love resting under a pebble in the dark. I'm not sure how long a life really is. I don't think it's measured the way we believe it is. I wonder what you felt watching him wake. What about you? Good night.